I'd like to reopen this monthly board meeting of the Urbana Park District Board of Commissioners. We've already held an executive session, and we are now back in our regular session. The first item of business on our agenda at this point is the public hearing for truth in taxation. And so I now will declare open this public hearing being held at the Urbana Park District Planning and Operations Facility at 1011 East Kerr Avenue in Urbana. And the purpose of this hearing is to allow anyone from the public to make comment on the proposed tax levy ordinance that we have advertised with our black box in the paper and also announced in the appropriate forum for people to know that we're holding this tonight. So my question is there anyone from the public wishing to address the board on this topic? Hearing and seeing none, I will declare this hearing closed now at approximately 7:09 p.m. So,
maybe you'd like to talk, Dave.
Well, then let's move on to accepting or modifying our agenda for the remainder of the meeting. And I believe there is a suggested amendment that we move item B from old business relative to our bond sale to immediately following public comment. Would there be a motion to modify the agenda in that fashion and then accept it?
So moved.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. So we will then proceed on to public comment. And are we going to do the staff introductions first? The presentation of the 10-year board service award actually is ahead of
like.
Hmm?
However you'd like to do it, Michael.
Okay, well, hey, listen, this is the way it is on our agenda, so
I was going to say next.
How about we do that?
Mm-hmm.
So, Bob,
Yes.
have you been counting?
It just seems like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, how can we do this and get LaShonda in? We'll have to
Okay,
gather
I'll sit
around.
next to
Yeah.
her.
I'm the problem
and then you guys
child.
stand up. You are. You are. How about if somebody goes in the middle?
Or stand behind you. And I
Yeah, they
can
can stand here. I'll just sit next to her and
have two
give
seated.
her my
Behind the
ears or
cat?
something.
Corky, are you able to get a good shot too? Maybe there's a better angle. I'll do one too, but you're straight on.
Yep.
I'll do one too, and we'll get the best one.
Okay, well, Bob, on behalf of the rest of the board here and the citizens of Urbana, I'd like to thank you for 10 years of service on the Urbana Park District Board of Commissioners.
Very good.
Yay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I was
Too
looking at
late.
you. I was looking at Nancy.
That's all right. I'm sure this will
Pull the
just
bob.
be another strange one in the archives.
And next up then is Urbana Park District staff introductions.
Great. I think we have staff coming forward. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. So I would like to introduce everyone to Holly Custer. She is our new Outreach and Wellness Coordinator. She is joining us from her most recent position at Sarah Bush Lincoln as a health educator. Yeah. And she comes to us with a degree in health and wellness promotion from McKendree University. Other than that, I'm going to let Holly tell you a little bit about herself.
Well, like Elsie said, I went for health promotion. My previous employer was Sarah Bush. I was a health educator there. I did a lot of outreach and wellness, like volunteer hours in the St. Louis area, so I have a little bit of a background with that. Wellness is my passion. Recently, the last couple of weeks, I have been in contact with other park districts in the state and other employers in the St. Louis area, up north, down south in the state. Just trying to figure out like their employee wellness programs, try to create an overall wellness for our park district here. So that has been my major duty the past couple of weeks. So, well, thank you for letting me come here, though.
Terrific.
And as a matter of curiosity, where is McHenry University?
It's in Lebanon, Illinois. It's close to like the St. Louis area. It's a small town, so that's why I picked it. But it's a small little university there.
What various types of interesting things have you found with the different park districts and their wellness programs?
Well, there's one that really sticks out to me is the Decatur Park District. They try to get their whole entire park district employees a part of it, and they try to do like fun little activities throughout it, like whether it be like competitions, just fun little gatherings, and they also like have an incentive of a wellness day off to like help the employees to be like active and to do like the overall wellness, whether it be emotional health, environmental, physical. So they cover all different aspects of the wellness dimensions there. So other than that, there's a lot of different little programs that I found through other park districts that have been very interesting that I'm excited to like share with everyone once we get it going. So,
Nice.
Great.
but thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now move on to the item from old business. Item B, that we move forward, consideration and action on ordinance 2017-11, our park bond sale, our annual bond sale. And I think we have Dave Phillips here tonight
Yes, we do.
from Spear Financial. Welcome, Dave.
Good evening. Good to be here this evening. Actually, you know, I told Katie that she should have a party hat on, because when you have a bid opportunity and you have 7 bidders that respond, it's remarkable. So it really speaks well to, you know, the credit quality, the name, the financial resources that you have. Obviously, lenders want to lend to those with money and good management. So, you know, in spite of this being non-rated, we've never had 7 bids on a term sheet sale. So
Wow.
it's remarkable. So you end up not only 7 bidders, but you end up with bidders from Denver, Colorado. Actually, the bidder from Denver, Colorado, the bid came out of Des Moines. The Manhattan, Kansas bid from KS State Bank. The bid came out of Phoenix. Their mothership is in Manhattan, Kansas. So, you know, these are not just Champaign area bidders. These are bidders from really throughout the United States that are paying attention to. So, you know, Commerce Bank did a wonderful job of being able to retain, I suppose, the crown of the opportunity to buy your bonds. They had a 1.43264% interest rate compared to Hickory Point Bank. Again, Hickory Point is a new bidder for you.
Wow.
And, you know, they were at a 1.61. So when you move from a 1.43 out to 2.64, it's a very wide variance, if you will.
Yeah.
But you're looking at the difference between the first place and second place bidders, it's really relatively narrow. You're looking at roughly 20 basis points. So congratulations. Certainly would recommend the acceptance of the best bid from Commerce Bank and the adoption of the ordinance that's before you that's been prepared by Chapman and Color.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure working with you.
How do these banks that bid find us? Find
Good
this?
marketing.
Through the, what company would that be?
We publish, you know, in the Bond Buyer, which is a daily magazine in the bond industry.
Oh, wow.
We circulate to probably 75 banks between in Chicago area, Champaign, Central Illinois area, Southern Illinois area, and so we have a pretty good list. Staff now goes through that as well and edits to make sure that those names, at least particularly in this region, are that, you know, we're not missing anybody. You know, one of the bankers from Commerce went over to Hickory Point, and he wanted to make sure that he was all registered to bid, and so he was, you know, they're aware of the cycle that you have, and we do about 50 of these non-referendum issues every fall. So there's a good grouping of bidders that are hungry for short-term paper. So, somebody like Park Ridge Community Bank, they're not looking to be your best friend. They're just, they look at their portfolio, and if they can buy $700,000 of bonds at a 171, which has won a number of other bids, then they're using their portfolio wisely. So, so it's relational sometimes, but also it's financial from our standpoint.
Good, thanks. All right, now we have to do this, don't we? All right, shall I make the motion? I move we award the low bid on bonds to Commerce Bank with an interest rate of 1.41% for the 2017 maturity and 1.53% for the 2018 maturity.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions? I believe this requires a roll call vote, and we'll start to the right with Bob.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 4 commissioners present voting in the affirmative. And then we need approval of the bond ordinance. Is there a motion in that regard?
I move that we adopt bond ordinance 2017-11, authorizing the issuance of $710,000 general obligation limited tax park bond series 2017 of the Urbana Park District.
Is there a second? Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Again, a roll call vote is required, and we'll start on the left this time.
Aye.
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 And that, again, carries unanimously with the 4 commissioners present.
I would say, if I can, the district has been on a path for the last several years of having a constraint of $710,000 as your issuance size, and this is the last year that you will be doing a 2-year bond issue. Next year, the bond issue that you'll issue is a single-year maturity, which means that it will be more efficient. You'll be having more principal and less interest, and you'll pick up about $25,000 of issue size next year, and then in 2019. You're going to be jumping from roughly $740,000 up to $820-some-thousand for proceeds, because you've been able to move from a 2-year cycle. Next year, you'll still have the tail of this issue, as well as the first year and the only year of next year's issue. And the year after, you'll not have a tail of the prior year, and so you'll be able to use the full debt service extension base. And that really comes back to coming back into project revenues that will be available, so that you'll be moving from $700,000 of annual capital to over $815,000 of annual capital because of the model that you've been walking through, and now that you're in the last year of this, in next year obviously is better, and then even the year after, when you don't have this tail of the second issue, will even be better. So you're on certainly a good path, and you've done well.
Thank Dottie for that. Really set that up and saw it through. So
And-
Congratulations.
Well, thanks. And would it be fair, Dave, to say that a single and somewhat larger issue like that is likely to be more attractive to these non-local banks?
It is. Again, you have over 90% of this issue is the first year maturity anyway, but the single year is better for you, and it's good from their portfolio standpoint as well, because it doesn't tie up their portfolio for a long period of time.
Nice to get good financial news every once in a while. And all the costs of this, all the costs that go with the bond letting are based on the cost of the bond, is that correct? Chapman Cutler?
No, that's been a,
Or is that a fixed fee?
it's been a fixed fee.
Is it a
hasn't it?
fixed fee that chap,
Yeah.
yeah.
The issue, Dave, the issuance costs are a proportion of the issue, right? I mean, typically, they
Yeah,
go up
it's-
if the issue goes up.
Everybody's really pretty much working at minimums, you know, with, it's a lot of money to you, but from a
Yeah.
overall macro standpoint, it's pretty small. So nobody tries to step on, you know, a small bond issue.
Right.
So about 9,500 of cost of issuance.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Good night.
Have a safe drive home.
Don't speed.
Right.
Yeah.
Move on now to the UPDAC report. I do not see the UPDAC chairman here. Is
Yes,
there-
Roger's not here tonight, but the report's in the packet.
Any questions or comments on the UPDAC report? Hearing none, then let's move on to the consent agenda. On our consent agenda for the evening are minutes from the October 3rd study session, the October 10th regular board meeting, the receipt of monthly reports from the 3 departments that we get on a monthly basis, approval of the monthly paid accounts payable, action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude, and action on ordinance 2017-13 authorizing the disposal or sale of personal property of the district. So, under the rules of our consent agenda, it is the purview of any single commissioner to remove any or all of these items from the consent agenda for separate action. Is there a request to do so by any of the commissioners?
I move that we accept the agenda as stands.
And okay, and that we adopt it in an omnibus fashion?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Second.
that's been moved and seconded, and under the rules of our consent agenda, there's to be no further discussion on these ordinary housekeeping matters. So, again, we'll do a roll call vote on this, starting to the right.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. And we're moving on then to financial reports.
Well, hi, everyone. You've already heard one of my major agenda topics for this evening, but I'll go through our financial reports for the month of October. So the first report I'll talk about is the fund balance report. This is the first of 2 budget reports. It shows the receipts and expenditures for the prior 12-month period, the budget for the current period, and the preliminary unaudited results for the 6 months ending October 31st. Sum 1 is the first page of this report, and it is all funds except for the Capital Improvements Fund. Revenues for this period were $7,692,000, which is an increase of $91,000 since September. $606,412,000 of this was property taxes. We didn't receive any additional property tax disbursements in the month of October, but we have 2 in November, which will finalize the property taxes for this levy year. In earlier months in the year, we always revenues always exceed expenditures considerably, since all of our property taxes are received in the early part of the year. At this point in the year, expenditures are $4,047,000, which is a change of $630,000 since September. And we have a surplus after 6 months, and this means there's an excess of revenues over expenditures paid of $3,645,000, and a net change in fund balance shows an increase after 6 months of $3,645,000 as well. Moving on to page 2, this page is a summary of only the Capital Improvements Fund. Revenues for this 6-month period were $164,000. And expenditures were, I'm sorry, I just lost my place. Expenditures were $456,000. Expenditures exceed revenues up until tonight when you sold bonds. This means there was a deficit of $292,000, and change in fund balance shows a decrease in the capital improvements fund of $292,000. When we receive our bond proceeds, so you'll still hear the same sort of message when we go over November's results, because we don't actually receive our bond proceeds until December 5th. And so on December 5th, there'll be kind of a reversal, and our net change in fund balance will be positive again as we continue to spend down this fund. The goal of the capital improvements fund is to spend it all. So it's not a savings account. We're trying to make improvements in our parks and spend all of this money. And we actually are required to spend our bond proceeds within 3 years of receiving them. But there's other monies in this fund that aren't just bond proceeds, such as the $500,000 transfer that we made from the general fund last fiscal year, and also donations and any other grants or contributions that come in. So those don't have that ticking timeline that the bond funds do of that 3 years. And sometimes, just depending on projects or grants, they may linger on longer. Moving on to sum 3, which is page 3. I just like to note that the ending fund balance, if the district ended its fiscal year today, would be $9,788,000 for this year. Following that are the summary reports for the individual working funds, general, recreation, museum, and indoor pool. Are there any questions about the fund balance report tonight? Great. The next report is the budget analysis with history report. This shows a historical comparison of the same six-month period of the current year and the prior 3 years. So 6 months is 50%, so that's a number you can use to compare throughout the report. The first section of this report is all funds district-wide. The first 3 pages are. And if you go on to page 2, about the middle of the page, you can see that total revenues and transfers in for the 6-month period were $7,952,000, and we've received 96% of our property tax revenues so far this year. You can also see that expenditures are running ratably consistent or better than the prior 3 years. In fact, the majority of our expenditures are running better than the prior 3 years. One outlier is on page 3. I just thought I'd note the miscellaneous category is greater than the prior 3 years, and this is because in the scholarship fund we transferred the $50,000 in the month of October. We transferred the $50,000 gift that the board authorized that we transfer to the foundation for the Vincent Green gift. So that transaction actually occurred and was charged to a miscellaneous account. So if you take away that $50,000, we're running ratably or better with the prior 3 years for that category as well. And so still on page 3, at the bottom of page 3, you can see that total expenditures and transfers out for this period were $4,600,000, with a surplus at the end of October of $3,353,000. And if you don't have any questions about the budget analysis with history report, we can move on to the treasurer's report. All right, the treasurer's report is the report of the amount of cash that the district has on one day, October 31st, 2017. All 24 funds are listed with where the cash is invested for a grand total of $11,514,627.04. Page 2 of this report lists, the first section lists investments that we have. And so of the total $11,515,000, $10,458,000 is out in investments. I reinvested a CD, and those rates just continue to go up. So that's great for our investments, but that also was kind of shown tonight because our rate for our bond went up too. So bonds and CDs kind of go up together. So if you're selling them or buying them, you kind of get it both ways. So. But our investment income has been good this year. The next section lists interfund loans. I spoke at length last month about when the auditors were here about the changes that we made to the interfund loan for UIC. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. But basically from now on, unless UIC needs funds closer to the end of the year, it'll be rare that I have much to say in this section because these are just standing interfund loans for the payroll and interim funds that don't ever change. So that's all I have to say about interfund loans. And then the final section on the back page is disbursements. So all the disbursements for the month of October totaled to $655,000. This is really a typical month. We renewed our liability policy in the month of October with iParks. So if you look at the liability fund, that total $187,000, 177 of it was our premiums for the policy. So if you take that outlier out, this was a really, like what I always say, a really typical month is like around 500,000. So not every month is a typical month for one reason or another. But I think like the day-to-day expenses of the district on an ongoing basis is around that much. So that's kind of a number that I look at and compare to. But there's always, there's a bond payment this month or the liability policy this month or this expense this month. So it varies, but it's something I keep track of. And with that, if there are no other questions, I'm happy to answer any, but with that, I can present the treasurer's report to you for approval.
I move we accept the treasurer's report for audit.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously.
I have a couple more reports to discuss. So the first one is the supplemental report of cash. And this is a report that shows the same information as the first page of the treasurer's report, but it groups the information by expected use rather than by fund name. The expected uses are daily operating funds, restricted special needs, and restricted gifts and donations. And you can see that same total of $11,515,000 that we have available. $1,268,000 is restricted obligations, which leaves $10,247,000 available as spendable cash. Are there any questions about this report? Okay. And finally, I'll touch on where there's been areas of activity in the capital budget this month, in the capital budgets this month. So in the 2017 capital budget, the revenues were received for tributes and donations. ADA funds were used for the James Room designs. Expenditures also occurred on tributes, on a stump grinding contract for removal of hazard tree stumps. A heavy-duty push mower was purchased from Operations Small Equipment, and the parking lot shared by the Nature Center and the outdoor pool was resealed, which you can see down in the contingency line at the bottom of the page. In the 2016 capital budget, this month expenditures occurred only on construction crew projects and the remainder of that stump grinding project as well. The same bill, it just carried forward into 2 years' budgets. And lastly, there was one transaction on the 2015 capital budget report, and that was on the bioswales project at the Nature Center parking lot. And Andy and Derek may have some updates for you on capital projects.
I'll start with the bioswales that Katie just mentioned. We had the reseeding completed for the sedge grass. We had staff apply soil amendments prior to that and after, and then the erosion control blanket is now in place. So we're basically in a maintenance phase, and that will carry us through with the IDNR agreement through June 30th. If we need any additional maintenance, we have some pricing available to do individual maintenance applications if needed after the IDNR agreement expires. With interpretation, I think I mentioned previously the Prairie Overlook panels were installed last month. Last week we had the bioswales interpretive sign that's located northwest portion of the parking lot by the path. So we still have 2 kiosk signs and the Douglas Creek sign yet to go, and that should be done in the next few weeks. ITEP, we have all our approvals necessary, and Fairgram has started with their engineering. So we have a planned, not set yet, but a public meeting and official kickoff meeting next month.
Great.
We'll mention that during our kickoff meeting with them, they took a close look at the schedule and determined that we're probably about 4 months behind, which isn't necessarily cause for alarm. We have time. There's ample time within the grant. But as we begin forecasting when we thought we'd bid the project, we really thought it makes sense to be bidding it next late fall, early winter. There's the potential that we might still get things done more quickly, but if you look at their schedule closely, there's activities that in order to hit like an August bid date, would need to be done within a week or two, which clearly we're not there. So they really did a great job of getting this back on track. They had good connections with both the Department of Transportation and also the federal folks. So really appreciate their efforts. It made a difference.
I will note as well, we our staff met out with IDNR for the Rock Riffle project. That includes reshaping of the bank of the Saline Creek. And IDNR still, I think we just got an email today that we're waiting on Army Corps of Engineers permit still, but they're anticipating work to begin in December and lasting 2 months still. I'll update next month as we get more progress.
Now, is that channelized with metal?
Mm-mm.
It's mostly rock, so they'll be doing some excavation to key in the rock. It's a series of rock riffles, also some double rock deflectors. The rock deflectors will help to create some scour pools, provide deeper water habitat. The riffles are own habitat of their own, but they also will have some scour behind them. They'll be reseeding areas around where the installations are going in, and then currently the plan is to lay back the bank to a more stable slope close to Broadway. The south portion of the creek is the priority, and they have a budget they're working within. We're very fortunate there that their own construction crew is doing the work, and so there's no labor or equipment cost to the project. It's just material cost. So there's reason for optimism that we'll get all done.
Boxes of rocks. No bad news?
Oh, what?
No bad news?
I don't bring bad news.
No money?
No slow down?
Money for projects?
No, the bridge fell into the, good.
Sure. Yeah, I can just speak real quickly on the demo project as well at Binkard.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow, PACA will be on site for salvage items, and then our demo crew will begin later this week.
Was there asbestos there?
Yes.
Yes.
That's been that work's been completed.
Ah, good. Was it a lot or just?
The asbestos?
Yeah.
7,000 or 8,000.
That was a lot.
Oy.
All the siding. There was some glaze on the
Siding
windows.
Oh, crud.
So pretty much all the windows had to get removed, all the siding, and then some piping in the basement had to get taken out as well.
The gift that
Yeah.
keeps on giving.
Usual suspects during that era of construction.
Yeah. Well, it's done. Right, it will be done soon. That's good.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on then to the executive director's report.
Great. Have a few timely updates. I'll try to go quickly to hit them all. October 24th, the rec staff had a retreat at Homer Lake. Was really pleased and proud. Basically, they did a lot of things, but one of the key things was to start to begin to look at our underrepresented report and start to translate by area how each group could respond and put together an action plan. So I was very pleased. Corky could probably go into great detail, but I think it's really exciting to see some traction, to actually get some things into place. So really pleased. We have a cyclocross group that we're working with, hoping to set up an event for January 2018 at the Weaver Prairie Park area. Really excited about that. We've got a couple of local individuals that are really spearheading this. Want to compliment the rec staff and the ops staff, planning group, just everybody's working together. It's a new thing. It's probably, we have questions. We, certainly would love to see how things turn out.
Can you repeat what the nature of the event is?
Yeah, it's cyclocross. It's kind of a,
Bike racing.
yeah, kind of
Bicycle racing, but there's obstacles.
Right.
and-
a picture of steeplechase with, some
On bikes.
built-in sort of hazards, and you're on bikes going fast. And if there's hills and dips and thrills, obviously it makes it more exciting. So again, we're trying to respond to a biking interest, think of things that younger people are interested in doing, offering opportunities in that neighborhood. Obviously, even if you can't participate, it might be fun to watch. And utilizing the site, where we have available open space that would, support activities like that. So really excited. And again, what I love seeing is groups approaching us, finding a way to meet their need, adjust it, or get it in a way that we can say yes to, and they're very cooperative, and I think good things are going to come from these kind of activities. Again, it'll be our first time, so we may, I'm sure, learn some things and, see how things go in the future. Continue to work with the age-friendly group, the CHAD group. We've recently done a new survey in the area on mental health, trying to get people that are either receiving mental health services or work with groups that are involved with mental health. So again, finding better ways to get people more connected, meeting services. Rec staff was involved in the Champaign County's expungement summit that was held. Obviously, we provided family and child care services to allow the families to participate. Again, that kind of outreach and partnership is really critical. Very pleased with all the staff and leadership that were involved with that. On the arts and culture front, work is being done now on the glass front entrance at the Phillips Rec Center to put up a glass mural. You may have seen some of them downtown Urbana. They've had a number of sort of storefronts in the parking deck where different designs were put up on the glass just to attract. So it's a different type of art form, and it's really exciting. I think you'll like what is going to come up.
It's finished.
It's done.
Complete.
Fantastic.
As of
So please stop by.
this morning, I think.
Did we have to wash the windows?
No.
No.
Oh.
We found
That
was
was the
funny.
question.
I assumed yes.
Last
I
week.
think I even said
They
yes.
didn't know, they didn't
Probably.
tell us we had to wash the windows. Do we have to wash the windows? Good.
I think they wash the windows, is my understanding, or some sort of process.
Yeah, I would think you might want to have
Right.
special material to
Right.
clean the windows with, yeah.
So very pleased, and again, the more we can do in that area, certainly it's a good way to get the community to respond. Still working at the Phillips Center on the James Room, hoping to transform the kitchen. Obviously, focused on phase one, but if we could certainly attract a donor or support, that could allow us to do a little additional work. So we'll continue to work on that. Derek mentioned the ITAP kickoff meeting. I think we had a really good discussion. Real excited. We have a great firm to work with, so glad to see that back on track. Let's see. Just wanted to mention that the Park District and the Urbana Free Library continue to work on collaborative opportunities. I think Nancy joined us for a meeting with staff. I think there's some interest she's brought and encouraged staff to get involved, and we're working on some little libraries ideas, the idea of these little kiosks that can contain books and other information. But we're doing other things too, focusing on reading, working with camps. Just the whole issue of literacy is really a critical issue. So obviously, you might think, well, why is the Park District teaching or involved in, literature or reading? It's really more working with another agency, promoting what we're already doing and adding in opportunities for reading. So,
Community,
Nancy, do you wanna add?
we have a commitment to community wellness, and
Yep.
can't read.
Yep,
We
exactly.
don't have a very healthy community.
Exactly. So how do we get our programs and our information out to people so that more we learn and do in that area? But again, it's wonderful working with the library and their staff. Again, we continue to work with the Urbana School District. I mentioned, mentioning the SPLASH program. Another grant application was requested, so we supported that and provided sign-off forms. Mentioned Turkey Trot 50th anniversary this year, so please come out, bring your friends and family. We're real excited about that. The shirts look terrific. We have some new hats that'll be for sale, so should be a lot of fun for everyone. A couple of things to track. Staff attended the IAPD Legal Symposium, myself, Katie, Alex, Derek, and Corky. Visited at Hamburg University. This year's focus, no surprise, around timely topics, sexual harassment and staff training, cybersecurity issues, alert went out for that, and then just concerns with free speech issues, people in parks, how to handle things like that. And again, our interest is being there, being ready and available to all. Some things to keep track for the future. We continue to chip away at our opportunities at Prairie Play. We're fast coming up on 25 years, or it's definitely time to start thinking about what should we do next. Obviously, the majority of the structure is made of wood, so wood doesn't last forever. Staff's replaced a lot of the pieces, but really what I think we're trying to signal is this could be a great opportunity to think about a new future. Prairie Play made a huge splash when it came to the community. I think it was the kickstart of really major development at Meadowbrook. We see it as another opportunity window to really create some excitement. So think staff's in the planning mode right now. Some things we'll be doing is talking with communities that have transitioned out of a Leathers playground or that maybe re-upped and continued with that and what's their new format.
Is Leather still doing playgrounds?
They are. And we also want to visit with other designers that are doing contemporary playground design, see what their client interests are, continue to look at, those sorts. So we're in an education planning, preliminary planning mode.
Yeah.
But we'd like to get ready. We see opportunity, we don't have it mapped out yet, but we'd love to see a lot of community involvement. We also are acknowledging, for some people it could be sad time or a, passing of something that was, really meaningful. So in order to be able to prepare for that, we're doing our homework now. Obviously, we'd love some citizen involvement. Could be a role for UPDAC. So we'll continue to provide information on that. But we wanted to get out there in front of this and start having that discussion. And it's interesting to staff how attached people become to their playgrounds, whatever neighborhood. Doesn't matter what neighborhood they're all. And so transition for all of us is challenging. And kind of thinking of the future and what's going to be new, but we're excited about that.
I know my family spent about 80 hours that week helping to build that playground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so the community was really involved in that.
Absolutely.
And really own it.
Right.
And now that the idea of taking it away, I think for a lot of
Right.
people, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we'd like to reframe it as, improving what we've done already
Right.
there. And so, and not focus on, maybe the downside, but so our hope is to get a lot of information, exciting images, and start developing, a strategy to move
Yeah.
forward on that. So we're planning, there'll be some large costs too. And so we want to make sure we have windows of, opportunity to meet some of those costs. So stay tuned on
This
that
is a
front.
real interest of mine, so I would be happy to be in on any of that committee
Great.
stuff.
Great.
And I think this has kind of solidified my resolve. I've been toying with the idea of going to the meetings in Chicago, but I think I will now for sure, because I'd like to start really looking at playground stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Definitely encourage you to join us for any visits or tours or
Yeah, so if,
to learn, because, we want to see what's out there on that larger scale. I think we have a pretty good handle on, more typical type play, but, once you go to sort of a super scale, what's being done and what are the new opportunities that are out there. So we're excited.
I think maybe it was you who sent me those
Yeah,
giant wooden
Yeah.
animals
yeah,
over there in Denmark, I think. Just absolutely
Right.
out of this world. I mean, fascinating, fabulous, interesting for kids. I mean, there's
Right.
just what's out there is hardly limited by imagination, and there's
right.
there's a lot to
Stuff.
see and a lot to.
Well, patting ourselves on the back, we like to think of us as being leaders in play. I think really until Prairie Play came to this area, there weren't a lot of exceptional, certainly interesting play opportunities, but nothing on that scale or that, that type of so
Yeah.
it was kind of groundbreaking.
Do we have a sense of how Monticello did? Because I know that their Leathers playground is gone, and
I think Derek
was there a
spoke with
lot of
them.
unhappiness?
Well, we spoke with their park staff that oversaw the effort. It sounded like it went pretty well. They were able to document some part of the reasons of why they were doing the replacement, and there were families that recognized that there were some challenges in terms of materials beginning to weather and some incidents. But we also know that they also employed an outside consultant to help facilitate meetings.
Break the bad news.
Kara actually knows the facilitator, and it sounds like, it wasn't always super smooth. There was some work that was done. So I'm expecting that there'll be
Yeah.
a lot of the sentiment that Bob was describing. It'll go very similar to Carl
Sure,
Park,
yeah.
but on a bigger scale. That's what we want.
Jeez. Oh, gosh. Maybe I'll
Think
be done
about
by
it
then.
too, it's the only playground we have actual, literally family impressions.
That's
where
right,
there-
that's
right.
There's imprints of people's lives, and so, we're trying to think of fun, interesting things of, is there a way to give back, or have people claim them, or, so they can keep a piece of something of the past, and it might be a nice way. So again, we envision a process that will include more people, create a community opportunity, involve people in the whole process. Certainly we'll need to probably look at the financing and the fundraising aspect, but I think, when we compare and look at our nature playground, you know, that was a new idea. Certainly it wasn't replacing something, but not a lot of people maybe knew exactly what that was until they got more experience or learned more. And then we saw such an outpouring of interest and support and donations and, you know, activities surrounding around it. So it definitely will be its own, you know, thing, an event-based sort of opportunity as well as capital.
I think not that I think we would do otherwise, but if we don't replace it with something relatively mundane and something that people can see every time they go to a playground, it'll make it a little bit easier for people to part with the old, because the new, it's not just new, but it's really interesting and almost avant-garde, and that'll be.
And I think we capture that vision too, you know, what's really special and interesting. And so that's the kind of places we want to visit, you know, what's super special about this, you know, the list of places. And we'll try to catalog those experiences and communicate it and share it. But as Derek suggested, you know, I'm sure we'll have some challenges, or maybe, you know, just getting people to understand that nothing lasts forever.
Right, especially wood.
And again, just so we're referencing, and we can move on, you know, it's wood structures, basically the structural elements are in the ground, things rot that are buried in wet conditions. So that type of construction, you know, you would have to basically take it all apart, replace all the same pieces, and every size is unique and different. Every piece of wood, other than the cut, you know, regular standards, the pole verticals are, you know, trees basically that are all different dimensions. So even if you wanted to do that, it would be difficult to take it all apart and put it back.
Some other guys changed their construction methodology. They now use more standardized, engineered support post. They didn't back then. What our structure currently has is odd size, essentially telephone posts. And so it makes replacement a real challenge. When we started running into some of our more significant challenges, we had Jake Wolf perform a structural analysis, and at that time he thought we had, as I recall, 5 to 7 years, and that's why we're doing our planning now, because that was a few years back. And our capital budget forecast that this is coming very quickly. It'll be a few years and we'll be there, so we'll start doing our work now.
Yeah, I was talking to a woman from Champaign with young children and asked her about the parks in Urbana and talked to her about Meadowbrook and Prairie Plain. She goes, "Oh, you mean Splinter Park?"
Right. One of the realities of wood structures. We agree with that, and that's a concern. And I think we all know there's pros and cons with every material, but hopefully we can come up with exciting concepts that really, you know, identify with the overall regional area, because we know people travel from a long distance, you know, to visit us. So that's exciting.
Do you have a sense of how park-ground liability laws are? Are they getting tighter? Are they staying about the same? Or
I don't think we've seen any major shifts in changes, like new layers of standards and things, but there's always changes and touches.
Right, but not a big swing one way or the other.
Not that I'm aware of. I think we'll find out more once we start digging, you know, but our staff stick with it too and keep updated on things.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been over to Monticello, if you're over there, take a look. It's right under the water tower. So if you find the water tower in Monticello,
it's just
right
over by the
below
train
that.
station.
And you'll see what their response, they're new. It's interesting. They've done a nice job.
Yeah, but it's nothing. I mean, it's nice. It's well done, but it's pretty standard. I mean, it's nothing.
Well, it's still a different scale.
Out there, yeah.
A little smaller.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
They shared that part of why they didn't do another playground is that they really wanted to have an ASTM engineered stamped fully, you know, letter of the law playground.
Yeah.
The letters playgrounds, well, they made a lot of steps in terms of materials. Each one is still custom built.
Right.
So that they think that they had enough challenges with the previous design. And at this point, I wouldn't say that we know where we're going, except whatever we do has to be really special.
Right.
Custom to be able to fit Meadowbrook in a way that replaces what's there.
Yeah. I guess I was saying that it wasn't particularly imaginative, where the other I thought was much more imaginative. This is, I mean, it's certainly not mundane, but it's nothing that where you'd look at and say, wow, that looks great. There was not, the wow factor was pretty low. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Understood.
Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But Yeah, okay.
Well, we'll keep on and moving in that direction.
Okay.
A couple of practical things. As you're aware, the IAPD, IPRA State Conference is coming up January 18th through the 20th. So mark your calendars. But Kelsey will be reaching out to find out who's attending and what arrangements and when folks want to go or can go. Special Rec, CU Special Rec had our cupcake run, our fundraiser Sunday, November 4th, out at the Dodds Parkland Complex. Really excited this year. We had 200 and I think it was listed 255 runners and walkers. So that's a huge number. And I thought I would expect to see a lot of, I didn't know what to expect because I was free to go that Sunday morning, and it's a community-wide event. There's a lot of people. As Corky continued to report with the marathon local now, there's always people looking for runs, races, walks, just to stay fit or to get practiced up. So this is one of those, another opportunity at that time of the year. So we're real pleased with that. Let's see, the Community Coalition work is continuing. The UPD is hosting the annual meeting December 6th here at this building. So we're pleased to be able to host everybody here. And got plans working with the Urbana Business Association to host the 2018 Uncorked Wine Festival at Meadowbrook again this year. So again, more partnership, more audiences to speak to and encourage. And I think that's all, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Moving on to the President's report, upcoming meetings. We've got a December 5th study session with covering Binkard Grove planning. And also, as we agreed, we will be having an executive session to go along with that. And then our regular meeting will be December 12th. And we've got to finish up with some of these financial things that have to happen by the end of the year, plus working up a list of priority projects for the Urbana Parks Foundation. Moving on to liaison reports, the Finance Study Group met at the end of last month, and we will be meeting again December 1, I believe it is. And I think we've already covered some of the things that we spoke about last month. And we'll see what we have yet to talk about come the beginning of December. I assume some ongoing information about healthcare for the district will be on the agenda for that. Has the Policy Study Group met?
We have not.
And Urbana Parks Foundation representative, is there anything to report there, LaShonda? Have you been
I
able
was
to?
not present yesterday, so I don't have anything to update you yet.
And UPDAC planning study, assume that's in the future, not recent?
I think what staff would do is plan for a meeting in December to get our next 3 or 4 months organized. So we'll be reaching out to the study group.
Have a scoot in.
Yeah, we received the email. We just haven't solidified a meeting date yet.
Okay, ready to move on to old business. And the first item is action to adopt ordinance 2017-10, our tax levy ordinance, which relates to the hearing that we held at the beginning of this meeting.
I went into quite a bit of detail about the process last month when the board selected the rate to use for the ordinance. So I'm not sure if anybody needs a refresher on that, but our levy process typically starts in September and is solidified in November when the board approves the ordinance. After that, it gets filed with the county before the 4th Tuesday in December. And from there, we wait until April when the levy is finalized and all of the calculations are done and tax caps are applied and state tax limiting rates are applied. And that's when we know our final extension and our final tax rate. So this is just a step in the process to secure our property tax revenues for next fiscal year. FY19 is what this particular levy ordinance will be for.
Did we have any comments aside from the person that got a hold of you, Michael?
I did not receive any calls so far.
Yeah, I by email, I copied the board on
Right,
my
right.
response to that, so.
But that was the only person who,
That's the only person that has contacted me.
oh, anybody else have any? Okay, good.
But one person who took a detailed interest and remains interested. I may ultimately end up meeting with him.
Good. Well, I thought you gave him a really
It's very
clear,
detailed. Yeah.
detailed explanation of what's a really labyrinthine situation.
We saw another example in today's paper of a second black box.
I did. Why was that one in there? I
Well,
thought it was the same as the one. Before.
last year, the city of Urbana placed a second black box below their black box to explain it.
Ah.
So the city of Urbana wrote about why the black box had such large numbers and tried to give some reassurance to Urbana that the actual individual property owners' rates weren't going up that much. It was just to potentially
them,
capture
right.
unknown changes in EAV. And Champaign, city of Champaign published a very similar black box. And, you know, it's something we talk about,
Every
but
year.
it's just an additional cost to this unfunded mandate we already have to do that we don't get a lot of calls about. So we're really conflicted about whether we want to invest in any additional
Right,
black
right.
boxes. I mean, it's an
I
expensive
mean,
ad.
it's worth mentioning that we pay to put that black box in
Absolutely.
the
Yes.
paper. It's not done as a service by the
Right.
paper.
Right.
And it's $1,000.
Conscripted as to how big it
Yes.
has to
Is it
be.
$1,000 for
Yes.
that much space?
It's expensive.
So we
Yeah.
discussed the idea of
Yeah.
how many calls do we get related to that? Is
Yeah.
that a good investment? And could that money be used in the field? So I think that's our recommendation at this
Yep,
point. But
yep.
if it's the new standard or it helps convey the info, we would do whatever the board would like.
We very much I like when I see that. I mean, it's great when you see other people doing it, but it's just practicality for our district. I don't know that it's super
Right.
reasonable when you don't have a whole lot of people knocking on your doors.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And we always encourage people to call or stop by if they have questions. So we're available
Yep.
to answer questions.
So yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have, but I think it's pretty straightforward at this point.
So are we ready for a motion? Because I'd make a motion.
That
Right.
would certainly be in order.
All right, I move that we adopt ordinance 2017-10, ordinance providing for the levying, assessment, and collection of taxes for the fiscal year 2018-2019 of the Urbana Park District.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Are there any further questions or comments? This requires a roll call vote, and we'll start on the left.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with the 4 commissioners present voting. Already moved that item, and now
Okay, that's,
moving on then to new business, because I think we moved the other old business item up to the front. Action to approve the 2018 capital improvement budget and revisions for the 2017 capital improvement budget.
Staff has the budget, and I believe you had a chance last month to look at it.
I can walk through the 2017 revisions first.
Mhm.
And you'll see the addition for our AMBUCS donations at $10,000. This will be for roof work on a pavilion, and remaining any remaining funds would go to trees. And you'll see highlights in the vehicles and equipment section. What we've finalized this section and dropped the contingency, the vehicles and equipment contingency down to the capital contingency. Within the contingency section, at the bottom, you'll see some recently completed projects that have been included and ongoing projects, including the Binkert asbestos and demolition, and then the completed projects, dog park approach, curb, caulking, parking lot resealing. And then we have set aside $150,000 for Crystal Lake Park improvements.
Mm-hmm.
We expect this to increase. We have $73,000 in unassigned contingency still. And then we will have additional funds from the Larson Tennis Court project that we'll be able to include.
Just mentioned that Ambucks improvement money, that's a community foundation grant that the Ambucks Club wrote. Got some assistance from Ellen, and they sent the proceeds to us. We're working with them on getting quotes for the roof. They're going to be doing the roof work. They had success in the past in getting a donor for that, and then we'll use the balance for tree planting.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So this is one of the pavilions they built themselves
Yes.
and putting a new roof on it? Does that include structural work, or is that just the shingling of it?
The shingling.
Okay.
The 2018 capital improvement budget line items exist as they were presented last month to you. And I'll just make a couple notes here. Vehicles and equipment includes the auction of a 2-ton for a new 1-ton and a new 72-inch mower for athletic fields. And you'll see towards the bottom of the expenditures are Phillips Rec Center improvements. That includes siding, landscaping, and the James Room project is reflected in the ADA project section. That's all I have of note for 2018, unless there's any questions.
I move we approve the 2018 capital improvement budget and revisions to the 2017 capital improvement budget.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments or questions? Again, a roll call vote. We'll start on the right this time.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. We move on now to action to approve ordinance 2017-12, revising the personnel policy manual.
This is a change. I told Alex she didn't need to come tonight because we've talked about this change for about a year, and it's 5 words that are changing in a personnel policy, but they're important. So I told her I'd fill the board in on those changes. So we started talking to the policy study group about this about a year ago, along with the changes that were coming with the FLSA final rule. I don't know if you remember that, but about a year ago, they made some changes to they were going to make some changes to the federal laws regarding exempt and non-exempt employees, and the threshold for salaries that would qualify for being exempt and non-exempt. And it was going to have some really drastic impacts nationwide, including our district. And at the final hour, there was a stay put on that ruling, and it didn't go into effect. But in the process of implementing those changes, because we really, had no idea they were going to put a halt on it, and so we were moving forward as though it was happening, we uncovered several changes that we wanted to make. And one of them is this change that's before you tonight, and it's a very simple change, but it administratively really affects our workflow. Since we process payroll in-house, literally every single time someone earns any amount of comp time right now, it starts a 6-month time clock that when it expires, we're required to pay them out. They've earned that time, so you have to pay them for it if our policy says they don't use it within 6 months. And just for clarity purposes, just a very small change we'd like to make is that those hours, instead of expiring after 6 months, just expire at the end of the calendar year and get paid out on the first check of the new year. If they haven't used them, of course, they're welcome to use them. And we thought with that change, having it expire towards the end of the year is a really good time, because if they had any comp time hours accrued around Christmas and New Year's is a good holiday time to take off to use up those hours. So that was kind of what we came to, and it'll make a big difference to our staff, and we appreciate your support.
And if somebody earns comp hours like the Christmas week, they got to be paid on January 1.
Yep. So they might as well just take overtime at that point. The way comp time works is every individual staff person has a choice. Every non-exempt staff person, has a choice if they work more than 40 hours to earn either comp time or just be paid time and a half for those hours. And comp time are earned at time and a half hours. So you're earning vacation time at time and a half. And it's still capped at 40 hours. So, but it could add a week to your vacation that you don't otherwise earn with our normal accruals. So it's a nice benefit. And it's particularly good for some of our staff that kind of run low on their paid leave hours. So it's a nice way to have some extra hours available. So, but yeah, in that situation, if somebody, there's a big snow event at the end of December, those people, it would make the most sense for them to choose overtime at that time. And we'll work with staff to communicate this change.
But Turkey Trot still gives you 6 weeks.
We need to move it up to Easter. I move approval of ordinance 2017-12, revising the personnel policy manual.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments or questions? And I think we can approve this on voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. And now we have a review of the District ADA transition plan and completed projects.
Kara's joining us.
Kara Dudek works closely with Shane Newell on our ADA transition plan. It's something that we review each month at our project meetings. Each year we review it with you all in terms of kind of a overall view of where we are in terms of the plan, and then a more detailed look at what we've been doing in the current year. And I think she's also going to talk about what's yet to come this year. Great.
Yep, thanks, Derek. So this is now my third time bringing the ADA memo to you. So I've been here for quite some time, even though it doesn't feel like it. Time is flying. I'll just run through sort of how the plan works real quick to recap, and then talk to you about some of the things that have been done so far this year and that will be done. Every barrier to accessibility has a priority number within the plan, and they are 1 through 4. 1 is easily addressed, whether it's just moving something or it has a very nominal cost, all the way up to 4, which is major infrastructure changes in parks or construction in facilities or things like that. That being said, through the end of this year, with what has already been done and what is planned to be done, we will have addressed 309 out of 745 total infractions in the plan. So that puts us at 41% of the barriers addressed. Last year at this time, we were at 35% of the barriers in the plan. So we've made strides this year. Taking it one step further, if I remove all the priority number 4s, which are the harder to do things and will come if we do facility updates, we're actually at 47% of those possible barriers addressed. And this is all just since the plan in 2011. Some of the things that happen annually are playground safety surfacing, checked every month and kept in a log to make sure that especially the places underneath slides or swings or things like that aren't kicked out. And if kids were to fall, the surface would be functioning as it should. In addition to that, we make sure that the picnic tables, 20% of them are ADA accessible, and that all the access ways to park amenities or facilities, that there's no overhanging limbs or bushes or anything like that. So those were the annual things. So far completed in 2017, the stairs at the Anita Purvis Nature Center received new flooring and no-slip treads. The lake house received some ADA compliant signage. And interestingly, due to the fact that 901 was demolished this summer, there are 38 barriers that were called out that are no longer an issue on the plan.
That's one way to deal with it.
So I thought that was interesting as I was going through verifying what has been done and making sure that we weren't missing anything. That was something that stood out. If you remember, in the 2 years past, Phillips and the Nature Center received interior and exterior door closers to that are ADA accessible models, which means that the pounds of force and the closing speed are such that they are accessible. And so this year is the lake house. They'll be getting those upgrades. The lake house is getting a few other smaller items ticked off the list. And I also just wanted to call out some other things that the Park District has been doing. There were 6 accessible benches added in 3 parks. Those are made possible by donors, but I found it interesting that Carl and Ambucks received their first accessible benches. Meadowbrook was the other park, and of course there's a lot of benches at Meadowbrook already, but Carl and Ambucks received their first ones. I hope to just convey to you how much the accessibility and the ADA transition plan is a part of everything we do, not just in addressing some of these barriers, but in new projects as we move forward. As Derek said, I work closely with Shane, and the amount of knowledge that we've gained by addressing these things is keeping us from having these issues in the future. For your knowledge, some of the things that are still left to address on the plan, a lot of them are accessible routes to park features and just sort of remedies that need to happen to pavement that heaves over time because of the freeze thaw and just settling that occurs. For example, when Blair Park is due for a new playground and master planning, some of the things that could be addressed are the accessible route to the playgrounds and the other features, including tennis courts or bike racks included on pavement, and just general connection things that would address the accessibility issues. Are there any questions?
Well, I have one. I think you brushed nearby it anyway. We had this survey done, 6 years ago. How many new things are cropping up due to tree roots or raising pavement and that sort of thing, and how much are we out there identifying those, or do we need to have a survey again at sometime in the near future?
Yeah, we actually talked about this just earlier this week, yesterday in fact. Yeah. We think that right now there's still enough items that we're addressing that we're good with our current study. However, we think there's a handful of items within it that are sort of uncertain areas for us, things that they're head scratchers, like making sand volleyball accessible. So we're thinking we may want to bring in a consultant to look at a grouping of items that we're concerned about. That may be an opportunity to look at some of these any new emerging issues, but I think we're probably on top of the new stuff, just because of the knowledge we've gained. One of the things that I'm working with Shane right now is implementing a path inspection program that would help to capture a few of those the new moving issues.
So is it fair to say at this point you're not actively adding things to the list?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like it would be good to have a procedure for doing that if something is observed, to actually get it.
Identify something and then mark it off and show it was done.
It's more likely it's being attended to, but maybe there's not a way we're not currently documenting or at least pulling it into this sort of format.
But I mean, if you identify something and you can't fix it right away, or something else is still higher priority, it would seem still good to get it actually on the list that we're working from.
Well, I think it'd be an advantage to showing that there were 40 items in a year's time that was identified.
Right.
And that you took care of 25 of the 40.
Right.
Just as a proactive staff.
It's a good thought.
We'll work on a way of adding and better documenting. Thank you, Kara.
Thanks.
Okay, we don't have to do anything with that, just listen.
Yeah, there's no action.
Yep.
Well, and thank you for coming out and sitting through the whole rest of the meeting.
If you're a consultant, you'd be second.
If you're driven from Chicago, yeah.
Okay, when now down to action on assigning 2018 IAPD IPRA conference delegate credentials. Do we know who's planning to go?
As I think I mentioned in my board report, I'm certainly going to be there and happy to serve in any way. If there's others that are dying to do it, that's absolutely
Bring breakfast.
easy opportunity. But certainly happy to attend.
Yeah, I haven't been for a long time, so I'll go and I'll do what needs to be done.
Okay.
Well, I'm quite certain I will not be there, so I
I
will.
would like to go. It just depends on
Right.
mobility, I
Scooters in the
guess.
snow,
I mean,
exciting.
I would think by that time I'm in a boot, but obviously I know they have to register and all that stuff, so I don't want to affect, like, because you guys do the early bird registration, right?
Kelsey's gonna send an email, I think tomorrow, to all the board members with the details about when our registration deadlines are and things. And so that could give you an opportunity to think about it for a week or two, but it's the first week of December that we need to know, so it's coming up pretty quick.
But is it easier to is it better to sign up and say, oh, whoops, I can't go?
We can find out.
Yeah, because
Right,
that's
and
really
you
the
get-
critical.
Right, and you'd be refunded your registration. I
Yeah.
mean, that
I'll ask
Most of it.
Kelsey, I'll ask Kelsey to
Yep.
look into the
Right.
refund policy, because
Right. I
I'd
forget.
rather sign you up at the early bird and
Right.
get it back if you
Yep,
can't
yep,
go.
mhm.
right.
Big hotel
I think the big
arrangements.
issue is the hotel.
Yeah.
They prefer to register you for a hotel room and then cancel it,
That's
rather
the
than
easy
trying
part.
to go back and get a new one with everybody else when it's full.
Right,
Right.
right,
So I think that's the rub on that.
right.
And we know that's easy to cancel.
Yeah, the hotel's the easy part, as long as you do, as Bob said, get out
Right.
early. Didn't you sleep on a Murphy bed one year or
I
something?
did. It was so
Less than ideal.
exciting. I've had more thrills at that meeting than I can care to tell you. I mean, Bob and I shopping for those gargantuan flowers. Yeah, yeah. The why they keep calling it soaring to new heights. I mean, I'm pretty soon we're going to be in the, there's going to be no air left.
Yeah, and then you'll be over the moon.
Yeah, with no life support. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, did I hear you volunteer to be a delegate?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
absolutely.
heard too.
I'll nominate her.
Quick before she changes her mind.
And are there any other commissioners who, you,
I may attend, but.
and you might attend, so we list LaShonda and Bob as first and second alternate then? Or should we do it the other way around? What would be your preference here?
I'll go as a second alternate.
Okay,
Makes you the first alternate.
all right. And then I guess our third alternate can be our executive
Sure,
director.
Be happy to. Got it.
Give you an afternoon off.
Okay. Would somebody care to make a motion for us to name Nancy Del Coleman as first delegate, LaShonda Cunningham as first alternate, Bob Stewart as second alternate, and Tim Bartlett as our third alternate?
I move such.
That was, I like that. I'll second that.
That's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously.
I will say is it the Saturday night party looks really is it at the aquarium? Is it at someplace interesting?
I forget. I don't know. I didn't
not
look
sure
either
where
to
it
even see. Is that it?
West
Okay.
Side
Oh, that's
Theater.
right, that's right, yes, yeah. Yeah, I think the last time I went to one of those was the aquarium, so,
And you
yeah.
had to go to the submarine within the first half hour to get in it, to do the tour.
Yeah, that would be not my top thing to see.
Okay, we have one last business item. Action to approve a memorandum of understanding between the UPD and Clark Lindsay Village. Is
Yes,
that too quirky?
right. So first thing is, in item number 1, age-friendly resource specialist, Michael did find a word that was missing. So in the in the file that you will sign is that word's corrected. So I just wanted to point that out. This is basically a rework of the agreement that was brought to the meeting for when Laura from Clark Lindsay was here. That form of the understanding really talked about it being a joint employee more than we were comfortable with. Technically, we're really just contracting out services. So I worked with Matt Deering, and he suggested this language for the contractual setup. So we're very comfortable with the way it's set up. We did give a checkpoint each year to review, see how it's working. That was something that I put in from what Laura had. They had arrangements for them to give us a bill, and then we would pay them monthly. We suggested quarterly so that we're not sending payments every month. So it'll be set up from a quarterly standpoint. All in all, we're excited about the opportunity of working with Clark Lindsay and also continuing our efforts with the age-friendly group that's here in Champaign-Urbana that Tim's serving on as a representative from the Park District. But we also see a lot of opportunities where we can improve on our arts and cultural items in the Park District. We mentioned the kitchen area and James' room being set up as a demonstration kitchen. As you heard earlier, we have now on staff a wellness person or position who has a lot of knowledge in those kinds of programs as well. So we're looking forward to being more of the vocal point for age-friendly individuals. So trying to really be the resource for the community. And Clark Lindsay has a great reputation, just like the Urbana Park District, and I think it'll be a great combination. And again, we have the opportunity to analyze it after the first year and see how well it's working and what it's really doing for the community, and then make adjustments if need be.
I think too that if you look at it from sort of a backwards view, this is another underserved population. It's just one that we haven't, we didn't study.
Absolutely.
There are lots of, what do they call those, Venn diagrams? Is that right? You know, all of these. I didn't have. I'm too old. I didn't have that in school. But the grandkids do. But you know, this is another, you know, another part of our Venn diagram, and this is a group that we haven't done much with, and it's
Absolutely.
yeah. So I think it's even better.
And that's just when Tim mentioned our staff retreat, and we dug into the underrepresented, and absolutely that was a point of our conversation, was this partnership. So.
And we didn't have to pay anybody to study it.
Yeah, and I think it allows that to be spread to a broader economic group as well.
Yep,
Because Clark Lindsay tends to be a little higher up on the income scale.
Yep.
So.
No, I think this is good, and then if it doesn't work, we're not bound to it with chains. So that's really great.
Yeah. Flexible.
Yep.
So does anybody feel strongly enough about this to move that we approve this memorandum of understanding?
I do. Except, do I have to? I move acceptance of the memorandum of understanding between the Park District and Clark Lindsay Village.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries unanimously. There was no action removed from the consent agenda, so we're on to comments from commissioners. Any comments from commissioners?
Any comments you want to share?
Yes. When I drive to aerobics, which is 3 times a week, I drive by Loman Park on Colorado. And about every other week, I look at that and I think, wow, it has made such a difference that it's open. I see people in there. I think, why are they parking there? And then I see somebody tottering around with a Frisbee kind of thing. It's made a huge difference. And I
Looks like a neighborhood park, doesn't
it does. It just, instead of someplace where, you know,
Right.
bad people can hide and jump out at you. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really lovely to look up onto that space. I just wish there were kids out there. That would be the best thing, if they could take their recesses out there, but I don't think that's too likely. But I'm so happy because it's made such a difference to that neighborhood. And I just wanted to thank you again for doing that and having the vision to do that, because it just is wonderful.
Disc golf is a real growth sport.
Yeah.
We're actually partnering with the club right now. We're going to be putting in some concrete pads in the spring. They're doing a fundraiser to help cover half the cost.
Oh, great. Yeah, and that little driveway thing in there, or whatever you call those, I'm sure there's a better word for it than driveway. That's really nice to have that little access in there. Yep.
Just a little tie-in comment. There's at least, I know, one UpDeck member that's talked to me that is very concerned / interested in finding ways to get school kids outside
Yep.
in the park
Yep.
school
Yep.
locations. Our understanding is they need a permission slip to leave school property, so they can't go into the park. I could be off, that's at least what was reported.
Yeah.
But obviously they're limited in coming to the park, so that could be an opportunity for us, maybe working with UpDeck or schools in a way, get more information. What can we do to encourage more use or
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
find a
the
way?
school isn't in the park, essentially. I mean, it's just a shame to not have them
Right.
being able to go in that, especially at Thomas Paine. I mean,
Right.
that's just
Right,
the ideal
exactly.
spot to.
And there
park
likely
to
could be
start.
other limitations, time schedules, supervision, but certainly getting people outdoor and active is what we do, and we promote that, so.
There's a slope. You know, how often do kids have slopes around here to run on?
Michael, I have one topic to address the commissioners, or if it would be more appropriate to go back to director's report, I just had one more bit. I had my items of interest, but I forgot one of my issues to share, but it really is,
I think we would allow you to make a comment.
okay. Just want to report, it's very important, and I'm glad I looked down at my bottom notes. Staff, as the finance committee knows, staff has been working on our 2018 insurance plan this year, and it's very, very, very difficult, as you're all aware.
This is the health insurance.
Yes, insurance, health insurance, thank you. For everybody in America is a topic of great concern these days. I think what we're facing is probably another stiff year of increases, and the likely situation of receiving lower quality plans. So staff is working very hard. We're doing the absolute best we can do, but I think a couple of things we probably will end up, as it is starting to shape out, we don't have a lot of time because we have to make decisions pretty quickly, to get staff enrolled and educated. So I don't think we have really a fantastic, report on what we're going to be able to offer. What we're trying to do is keep our increases more similar to what we did last year, which I believe was about a 30%, just under 30% increase. Our first proposal we got was a 50% increase. And obviously we have some, we have had some claims. We have a small group, even though we're in a large group category. We have a small number. If we had thousands of employees, we might be able to offset our claims, the other way. So I just wanted to let you all know we're working and doing the best we can do to get the best plan. It also could be likely, we don't know yet, but whatever happens next year, we may need to make some radical decisions to take advantage of whatever's out there that would help lower the cost and increase the quality of that insurance plan. Things that I think we've noted over the years and shared, when we look at our staff wages and our benefits, the analysis on benefits is above average. And so that's a real tool to recruit and attract and retain employees. Wage, I'm sure, we've made great strides with that as well. We could see a situation where our benefits start to dip, and health insurance would be a key piece of the reason. We're aware other groups are struggling also, but it seems like we're taking a pretty big hit this year. So we're frustrated, and the worst frustrating part is we can't really control it. A lot of this stuff, we have a lot of control, we make choices, we can fix things or move away from things, but I think we're in a real tough situation, and we'll get a plan. I think we'll have something, but it's probably not gonna be a wonderful plan and trying to meet the cost. I should say you can have any plan you're willing to pay for that's out there. We're constrained by cost. So I just wanted to sort of make everybody aware of that. It's a real struggle. Everyone's working hard to try to find solutions, but we're limited on our options. It's questions.
Is this something that I mean, I assume that we're not the only park district who is suffering this way. Is there any way to go into, into a bigger group? Have the APD looked into that?
I'd like to find out. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things we'll start asking. There are other pool type options
Yeah.
that are similar or slightly different than that. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we have to do something very different. We can't continue on this, what I'd call the more traditional plan approach.
Yeah, it's
So
not
we're
good for staff.
Probably
It's
gonna
not-
look at some options. We'll look at every option, any option that would help us. But I think there are gonna be limited options. Our hope is that things will get better out in the, business world, that will give us better options.
Well, it
But-
would help if the feds got their act together and.
Right, so our general plan is Thursday, we have
Excellent.
leadership meeting, we're gonna probably share the updated information, try to get to a recommendation. And I think we have to move on it because there will probably be a considerable window of communicating to staff of what these changes could look like. Again, we don't have all the information, but we're basically running out of time and we're getting some new information and we're probably gonna have to make decisions based on less than ideal choices. So just wanted to make the board aware, it's not due to lack of trying. We started this process back in August because we anticipated problems. It was difficult to get information. The bottom line is the rates aren't either out or we're not able to get them, or they're not sharing them. I don't think there's a plan to keep it from us, but you've heard this before. We get this last minute window information. We have to make rapid decisions. In the past, it's been less changes. I think we're gonna see some dramatic change right now.
And I think if the feds were stable with that and the insurance companies do what they could count on, then
Right.
that would make that
Yes.
less of a critical
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
We would agree with that.
We're a member of a website called publicsalary.com,
Mhm.
and other park districts in Illinois post, it's a forum, and it's like a data sharing website. And other park districts in Illinois, the average increases are between 2 and 8%. And then Gallagher released a report, who's our insurance carrier through Tom Brown, purchased by Gallagher, or merged with Gallagher. And they issued a report, and the average of all of their clients, all Gallagher clients' increases was 5%. So it's really because of the size of our group and our losses this year that we're seeing these catastrophic increases. Which was also really the situation last year as well. So last year we were quoted a 30% increase, and what we did was we brought in a lower quality base plan, and that's what the park district covered, and we kept the 80/20 and the 100 plans intact that employees could still choose to buy up to, but we limited our costs to the lower base plan. And we saw a lot of success with that because a lot of our younger, healthier employees went down on that plan, and there wasn't a lot of usage. So it kind of had the effect we needed, which was to lower our costs for the employees that don't need that higher coverage. And by doing that, we actually saw a real increase of only 20%, or just over 20%. So we were quoted 30, we got 20. Now we're being quoted 50, and we're going to be lucky to get a 30% increase when we're finished figuring out what we're going to do. I mean, that's just best case scenario. It'll be 30%.
Right, and it may not be a great plan.
Or a lower quality product.
Right,
Yes.
right. And usually the lower quality comes in either co-pays and/or deductibles.
Yeah,
So
right.
those are the things that people get affected by, so it's frustrating. We'll have a plan, but we're not happy about it, and we have to make some dramatic shifts at some point soon.
Are we looking at ways to reduce are they work-related claims, or are they just life-related
Health
claims?
insurance.
Health
Yeah,
insurance.
Our work-related claims all go through our workers' comp carriers.
Okay, so that's, so
Separate,
it's not, it's
right.
just,
Yes, we're looking at things, what can we do, health and wellness plans,
Right,
that we
right.
could do, anything we could do to help bring down keep in mind, there's processing costs that go with those, you know,
Right.
opportunities also, but
Yeah, we're looking at anything and
Anything,
If you have any
everything.
ideas for us,
it's,
please
I
bring 'em our way.
don't like to be
Yeah,
negative.
I could get elected if I
Pretty
could think
dire.
of something good.
Right.
So you guys have to make a decision, and it's effective in January?
And so then there's the rollout information. Usually if, you know, keep in mind, for many years, it was just fill out your form and not a lot of changes, and, you know, rates worked pretty well. And obviously the last 5 years, we've seen, you know, much more uncertainty, unstable. Now it's really crunching the last year and this year. So I guess we just have to find the best option, try to explain it the best we can to staff. One of the concerns, obviously, as the cost goes up, we're still trying to address wage. So, you know, the usual pay more in insurance, get a lower wage, and did you really increase, or where are you? And so it's not the fault of the park district or the staff or the board. It's these external forces that are really causing havoc with our finances.
And
So
I have
insurance is
another
one of them.
Comment too, to kind of answer Nancy's question about, is there a way we could join a larger group? I would love it if IAPD would
Right.
come up with some sort of cooperative for health insurance for park districts. But at least at this point, no other district wants
us.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to reach out and say, oh yeah, add to our group, because we're
Right.
not considered a healthy group.
Right.
And we'll drive all of their rates up. So
So it's like car insurance, essentially. You have an accident and your rates go
Yes.
up. You have a claim and your rates go
It's
up.
very much like that.
And I've written in my board report, at least once or twice, about the county group that was looking into IPDC, which is it's a self-insurance pool, that's statewide. And that's one of the options that we're really interested in, but the process to get involved in it, you have to start very early in the year. So that's gonna be something, no matter what we decide in the next week or two for this plan, that we're gonna jump right into the planning and research phase of. Because there's always an upfront increase to get into that plan, because it's a self-insurance pool, so you have to start out front loading it.
Pool up your
But
money.
what at least their salespeople, say that there's some stability in that plan, that your increases are like 3% from then on. So we don't, you know, we're still doing our research and due diligence on finding more information out about that, but that's one of the kind of options that we know is out there that we might be able to look into as far as how we might make changes in the future.
Right. And we're also aware of any new change or dramatic shift. You know, we can forecast some of the impact, but there's always a learning curve. You learn things by doing. So, you know, we might jump to a new approach and might have new issues that go along with that.
Yeah.
So we're just frustrated, and I don't know if there is a good answer for us right now, but we're doing everything we can do to try to provide the best plan at the reasonable cost and try to limit and then look for new options. But that's all I had to report. Just
Yeah,
wanted people
well,
to be
I think
aware.
another thing that sort of fantails off of that is I think that the administrative team and the boards worked real hard in the last 4 to 5 years in bringing the pay scale up to what is comparable.
Market
We're
rate.
not necessarily nose to nose with everybody, but we're much closer than we
Yeah,
were.
tracking the market, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And so now this little health bump is,
Right. Yep. So anyway, just we'll have to make a decision and move forward. So we'll share as we go, but I don't think we'll have a lot of time to ponder ideas and look for new options. That's all I had.
For this coming year.
Yes, for the 2018 calendar year.
Any other comments? Well, hearing none, I think we've exhausted our agenda, and we'll declare us adjourned.